That's a scary, sad thought too. It's interesting because I had the COVID, the vaccine specialist on my show, and we were talking about some of this stuff. And I asked him about, when polio came out, they gave the
Oh,
vaccine
yeah.
to everybody, and they accidentally sent out live polio to some of them by that didn't, and they ended up
Oh,
giving
wow.
people polio because they didn't have the dead version, and it was. I'm like, is that a true story? He said, yeah, it's a true story. So you don't know what's going to happen with what they actually come up with. I don't think this is like polio where they have something live that you have to worry about, but you don't know what the thing is that they might have forgotten or that, you know. So, I mean, having worked in pharmaceuticals for 15 years, I saw a lot of things that got on the market that they had to take off the market. And so it's hard to tell what's going to happen. So you kind of look at it. It would be nice to have like the holodeck from Star Trek, where you could actually do it more VR. And I wonder how much VR though we'll see the glasses and stuff, because I think if you got a 3D thing and you're right next to somebody, even if it's a virtual, that would be better than the postage stamp 2D kind of thing, don't you think?
I, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Uh-huh.
I think that anything consistently again and again and again
It's
turns to
overwhelming.
burnout.
Yeah.
Everybody gets used to it and nobody's interested anymore. When I see 1/3 of employees' days are spent on camera, and these people have not been trained to be on camera, have not had any kind of media training at all, and suddenly, wow, we're all on TV.
Yeah.
Now that is frightening. However, I mean, we have the antidote to that.
Mhm.
We know what to do. We know how to make this easier, more compelling, and yet still stay within the very limited guidelines of our platforms.
Yeah, yeah. It's going to be really fascinating to see what happens with companies in terms of, like you said, and we started off with that they go to smaller buildings that they get together once in a while. So that's a new way of communicating too. As we were talking about this, the Silo Effect was a pretty popular book for a while because we were seeing everybody was siloed into these different sections at work and holding on to content. And now that you're home and you're not communicating at all in a whole group setting, what's that going to do for the communication in the work setting of how you just keep your content to yourself in your group or whatever your Zoom group is? So the business ramifications of this are fascinating to me.
Well, I'm fascinated by that too,
Yeah,
because there is no template that has ever been created for this.
right.
We have we were just riding so high. We were getting paid top dollar for our business,
Yeah.
for our speaking, for
Mhm.
our words of wisdom, for all the research that we had done. And then all of a sudden, as I said in this book, all of a sudden, we woke up one morning and we were told we have a pandemic. And people didn't even know the ramifications.
Yeah.
People didn't even know the meaning of the word. And on March 11th, the word pandemic was the most often looked up word. March
Mhm.
11th, 2020, most looked up word in our dictionary. And
Yeah.
and Merriam-Webster named it the word of 2020, pandemic. So we didn't know anything about this. We certainly didn't know what that meant for business, but we ultimately did not know the toll it would take on human beings. And I think we're seeing that right now. And even though we do business consulting, this is really more of a social, psychological ramification of what is happening to business today. And it's worrisome
Yeah.
because it is
Zoom
us.
fatigue, it's all of the things that people are going through. Like, you're talking about the not knowing if they're going to downsize, the not knowing if there's going to be more issues. We got Zoom bombing. We've got people coming in. We've got all kinds of crazy stuff. I talk about words they're going to add to the dictionary. I'm very curious. What are the next ones? You know what I mean? Uh, but I think though, learning to communicate in certain ways. It doesn't matter if you're on Zoom or you're in front of a camera, an audience, or you're in an office. There's a lot of some of our principles that are going to be the same no matter where you are, in terms of having understanding your audience, understanding, doing research before you speak, and all the things that we've done in our other videos that you can look up here on our YouTube station at, on your mediadocs.com, or on the YouTube station.
History does repeat itself again and again and again. And one of the fun things that I talk about in the book was, remember the song from 1985, Aretha Franklin, Who's Zooming Who? And I always wanted to say, who's zooming whom? Can't you see? But you see, that's our craziness. And there is poetic justice, poetic liberties that musicians can take. And it's who's zooming who, and which is the name of the song. And we're all zooming each other now. So who would have thunk?